Imagine every light is too bright, every sound is too loud, and your own clothing feels like sandpaper, all at the same time. That's not exaggeration. That's a Tuesday for millions of autistic people. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly why it happens and which tools actually make it stop. Sensory overload is one of the most misunderstood parts of the autistic experience. People see the meltdown, the shutdown, the sudden need to leave a room, but they rarely see what caused it and almost never know how to help. This video is for autistic adults who want language for what they've felt their whole lives, and for parents who want to actually understand their child instead of just managing behavior. We're covering 5 things: what sensory overload really is, why it happens in the brain, how to recognize it before it peaks, tools that genuinely help in the moment, and long-term strategies to reduce how often it happens at all. If that sounds useful, stick around and hit subscribe because we cover practical autism support like this every week. Let's start with a definition that actually means something. Sensory overload happens when the amount of sensory information coming into the brain exceeds the brain's capacity to process it in real time. Sound, light, touch, smell, taste, movement, even internal sensations like hunger or a full bladder, all of it comes in as data. For most people, the brain filters out what's irrelevant almost instantly. You don't consciously notice the hum of a refrigerator or the feeling of socks on your feet unless you focus on it. For many autistic brains, that filtering system works differently. Less gets filtered out automatically. So instead of background noise, everything arrives in the foreground, all at once, all demanding attention. Think of it like 100 browser tabs open on a computer, all playing audio simultaneously. Neurotypical brains might mute 90 of them automatically. An autistic brain might have all 100 playing at full volume all the time. This isn't a preference or a personality quirk. It's a neurological difference in sensory processing that shows up consistently in research on autism. And it's not always about intensity either. It's often about duration. A sound that's fine for 10 minutes becomes unbearable at the 40-minute mark because the nervous system never gets a break from processing it. Overload can come from one overwhelming source, like a fire alarm, or from many small sources stacking up. Itchy tag on a shirt, someone's perfume, a conversation happening nearby, and bright overhead lighting all at the same time. Individually, small. Together, it becomes too much for the nervous system to keep processing. So what's actually happening neurologically? Let's go a little deeper without making this a textbook lecture. Research using brain imaging has shown that autistic brains often show heightened activity in sensory processing regions, alongside differences in an area called the amygdala, which is heavily involved in the body's threat detection and stress response. In plain terms, when sensory input isn't filtered the typical way, the brain can start interpreting ordinary environments as threatening. That grocery store hum, those fluorescent lights, that overlapping chatter, the brain reads it the same way it might read an actual danger. That triggers a stress response. Cortisol rises, heart rate increases, the body shifts into fight, flight, or freeze. This is why sensory overload doesn't just feel annoying, it feels dangerous. That's not an overreaction. That's the nervous system doing exactly what it's designed to do when it perceives a threat, even if the threat is just a loud blender. There's also something called interoception, the sense of what's happening inside your own body. Many autistic people process interoceptive signals differently too, which means overload can build for a while before it's even consciously noticed. That's why it can feel like it comes out of nowhere. The warning signs were there, they just weren't registered until the system was already near its limit. Understanding this matters because it reframes the whole conversation. This isn't about being too sensitive. It's about a nervous system working overtime with almost no automatic volume control. Here's where this gets genuinely useful. If overload builds gradually, that means there's a window, a chance to intervene before it turns into a full shutdown or meltdown. Early signs often look small: increased fidgeting, covering ears briefly, answering questions more slowly, struggling to find words that were easy a minute earlier, avoiding eye contact more than usual, suddenly wanting to leave a room without explanation. For children, this might look like increased clumsiness, repetitive movements, or getting unusually quiet. Mid-stage signs escalate: irritability, snapping at questions, needing to move away from people, stimming increasing in intensity, rocking, hand movements, pacing. Late-stage signs are what most people recognize: meltdowns, which look like an outward release of overwhelm, often mistaken for a tantrum, or shutdowns, which look like the opposite: going quiet, becoming physically still, appearing to check out. Both are the nervous system hitting capacity. Neither is a choice. The goal isn't to eliminate every sign of discomfort. That's unrealistic. The goal is to notice the early and mid-stage signals and respond before the system maxes out. This is true whether you're recognizing it in yourself or in someone you're supporting. A lot of autistic adults find it helpful to keep a private log for a couple of weeks, noting what environments, times of day, or sensory combinations tend to precede overload. Patterns usually show up fast. Parents can do the same thing for their child, tracking triggers instead of just tracking outbursts. If this is resonating with you so far, drop a comment telling us what your biggest sensory trigger is. You might be surprised how many people relate. And if you haven't already, tap that subscribe button because we're about to get into the actual tools. This is the part everyone's been waiting for. Let's talk about what genuinely works based on both research and consistent reports from the autistic community. Not vague advice like, just relax. Noise canceling or noise-reducing headphones. These aren't about blocking sound entirely. They're about reducing volume enough that the brain isn't fighting to filter everything at once. Even simple foam earplugs in a bag can be a fast, low-cost tool for unexpected environments. Tinted or FL41 lenses. Fluorescent lighting is a major trigger because of its flicker rate, which many people can perceive even if they can't consciously identify it. Specialized tinted lenses can reduce that visual strain significantly. Weighted blankets or compression clothing. Deep pressure input can help regulate the nervous system by activating the parasympathetic response, the calm down system in the body. This isn't just anecdotal. Occupational therapy research consistently supports deep pressure as a regulation tool. Stimming tools, fidget items, chewable jewelry, textured objects, these give the nervous system a controlled, predictable sensory input, which can help crowd out the unpredictable input causing distress. Stimming isn't a bad habit to eliminate. It's often a built-in regulation tool doing exactly its job. Escape plans. Simply knowing there's a low stimulation space to retreat to, a car, a bathroom, a quiet hallway, reduces anxiety before overload even happens because the brain isn't stuck bracing for no way out. Timed breaks. For predictable, overwhelming events, birthday parties, family gatherings, loud workplaces, scheduling 5-minute sensory breaks every hour, even before feeling overwhelmed, prevents the buildup from ever reaching crisis level. This is proactive regulation, not reactive damage control. Reduce demand communication. In the moment, using short phrases, a communication card, or even a simple pre-agreed signal, like touching your own shoulder, can express, "I need to leave," without requiring full verbal explanation when words are hard to access. The key with every single one of these tools is using them before full overload, not just after. That's the difference between a tool that sometimes works and one that consistently works. Tools help in the moment, but reducing how often overload happens requires looking at environments differently. Environmental audits. Walk through home, work, or school spaces and identify fixable sources. Harsh lighting that could be swapped for warm bulbs, humming appliances that could be relocated, cluttered visual spaces that could be simplified. Small physical changes compound over time. Predictable scheduling. Uncertainty itself is a sensory and cognitive load. Knowing what's coming, even something as simple as a visual schedule, frees up processing capacity that would otherwise go toward anxious anticipation. Nervous system baseline care. Sleep, hydration, and regular movement all affect how much capacity the nervous system has before hitting overload. This isn't about fixing sensory processing. It can't be fixed. It's about making sure the starting baseline each day isn't already depleted. Advocating for accommodations. At work or school, this might mean requesting a quieter desk location, permission to wear headphones, adjusted lighting, or flexible break schedules. These aren't special treatment. They're the equivalent of glasses for someone with low vision. They let people function at their actual capability level instead of fighting their environment. For parents, the long-term goal is building this awareness collaboratively with your child as they grow, helping them learn their own early signs rather than only managing the crisis after it happens. That skill becomes one of the most valuable things they carry into adulthood. Sensory overload isn't a flaw to fix. It's a nervous system difference to understand and work with. The people who manage it best aren't the ones who eliminate every trigger. That's impossible. They're the ones who recognize the early signs, use tools proactively, and build environments that don't demand constant fighting just to function. If this video helped you understand your own experience or helped you understand someone you love a little better, that's exactly why we made it. Hit like if you learned something new, subscribe for more real, practical autism content, and drop a comment below with one tool from this video you're going to try this week. We read every single one. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.